Hmm. Okay, we're live here, and this is another edition of Clifton's Clicks. I am Clifton, and I'm a little dressed up, snazzied up. Got a haircut. Hopefully, it looks good. I think so. Um, yeah, last time we talked a bit about, we just talked about me catching up, and it was a bit emotional at the end. Just the incredible bliss and appreciation for the journey and the declaration and recognition of certain skills and abilities that I have, or I've been blessed to have, or currently have, however you want to talk about it, however is the best way to talk about it. Say it. And that's what I'm here to do, is really help bridge my understanding of what I've experienced with some modern science and techniques that, of course, we're talking about upgrading operating softwares. So now we're in sort of that full beta test mode. This is real life sort of debugging, understanding what's going on in a modern context, a modern society. And one of the things that what I am referring to is the abilities to recognize things that go beyond the normal five senses. And one of the things that entails, like I said last time, was being able to channel, being able to embody Kalaberva. And I broke down a bit how that happens. And to the best of my ability, right? And that's really what I'm here to share, is to the best of my ability, my take and my understanding on it, while giving proper credit and citations as best I can. I grew up in a newspaper family and a publishing family, and myself had some publications. And giving credit, source credit, is a very important way of staying integrated with all the knowledge and where it's come from. And so a lot of what I'm sharing comes from my teachings, my lessons from Paramahansa Nityananda, as well as where he got it from, which is the Vedas and Agamas, which are some Hindu Vedic scriptures. And the reason why I share this is because in today's society, where everyone just tends to copy and paste one article or blog and tries to claim it as their own, journalism itself has been in a rapid decline, and that's something that I've experienced firsthand running my publications. And what I really love about this system is what they have is something called it's a three-prong approach of Shastra Pramanas, Apta Pramanas, and Atma Pramanas. And I do hope that that is the correct pronunciation of it. But basically, it's saying, here's the source that it comes from, here's this person who gets it, their comments, and then you have your direct experience of what this original source was saying. And so what I really love about this is it really gives credit and passes on credit while allowing there to be interpretations and explorations of what it was meaning to say in the first place. So, for example, in modern society, the uses or potential use cases of some of these skills and abilities are different. We're in a modern society or modern times, and that means that perhaps the quote "teach a man to fish" actually isn't a very valuable statement, except if you extract it in a metaphorical standpoint, because how many of us actually go fishing or actually eat fish, or don't we go to the supermarket now? So that kind of concept, the metaphors and allusions and references to help people start to grasp and understand what the intention was, is very important. And so I believe in specific religions as well that they have this with the um, Pentateuch and the Talmud and then the preaching. The main point is it's, hey, here's the source, here's the teacher, and here's your experience. And if you have an experience that is helped by the teachings of the teacher, and that teacher gives authentic credit to the source, then everything is integrity. And so there's a lot of parallels with that and journalism or good investigative journalism. And so what I'm sharing with you is the intersection and interplay of that. So what I want to talk to you about today, which was something that was a realization, was a way to utilize from our updated operating software the perception and understanding of subtle energy bodies and the space or the ether in between all the molecules, as well as the other paradigm is viewing everything as vibration. What I wanted to do was bring all those perspectives in modern society, because that is another nice thing about modern society is that our science technology, at least in recent times, looking at it in recent times, constantly improves, and so we're able to measure with a higher degree of accuracy and look at things from a wider and more intense perspective. So with that, what I wanted to talk to you about was the um, process of body scanning. And in this, what you, the um, hmm, give me 1 second, please. So one of the things that I wanted to share with you was just how body scanning and third eye powers work. And we know from a very general scientific perspective that our eyes take in light, which is light at a specific frequency and wavelength. And sound itself is also a specific frequency and wavelength, which we get in through our ears. And we know that our mouths can create noise, which is vibration and frequency. And there's plenty of studies out there that demonstrate that when one sense is deprived, it elevates the other senses. So, for example, a quick test is if you close your eyes real quick, you're actually able to hear more. If you plug your ears, you're able to see more. And there's another sense out there that is the power of the third eye. I don't know why I don't talk about this. What do I want to talk about? Hmm. Hmm. One of the frustrating parts about living a very spiritually aligned life, an integrated life in the reality that I currently find myself in is the hmm, yeah, what is What is it that I wish to speak about? Hmm. Far too often, we find ourselves at the crossroads of specific decisions, and in those moments, we tend to pause and reflect that at the pros and cons of each decision. However, when these decisions involve a specific breakthrough or a specific upgrade to our operating software, we actually have no ability, because we have no capacity to even comprehend whether going through with an action is positive or negative. It's as though if someone were with an operating software of simply existing in a room with one door, all that person can understand is a reality of that room, and therefore the pro and con that gets weighed from a logical perspective is based on their current perception of reality. Now, we understand from a very logical perspective that what's most important is for the person to take action, or rather decide, for even not acting is a decision. However, we know that there's more to life than what's simply in this room, and therefore, when we perceive and we observe specific individuals who are in this metaphorical room using their non-upgraded software to try to rationalize and make decisions, it creates quite a hardship in us, for we wish to be able to share our experience and our understanding of how the options that they are weighing are off and aren't even considering the vast other things that will occur beyond that door. And in a way, having incredible insights, wisdom, however they may come, as long as they are existentially true, creates a bit of cognitive dissonance from the perspective of an individual who is observing a person struggling and racking their brain, computing, spending all their computing time and power towards trying to make a decision whether or not to open the door. We know that they are not including so many other things in their calculation for taking action. For it's easy to agree in a way with them for their rationalization to not take action or not open the door, because in their reality that matches the decision to not open the door. And so here we find ourselves when we elevate our consciousness, while we continue to elevate our consciousness as well by observing and connecting to those of greater consciousness, and connecting ourselves in a higher vibrational state to do so, we often I have often found myself wondering what the best way is to enrich others. At what level do we enrich others, and whom should we enrich, considering an upgraded software can help everyone? Everyone theoretically can do better on a new Mac or Windows laptop or computer than they would on a Windows 98 computer in terms of performing the same functions that they were doing before, but also allowing them to explore greater possibilities that wasn't possible because the graphics card was old or the RAM wasn't good enough, or now there's new programs that they can run. And a lot of this, I could imagine, resonates with the same opportunity as raising a child or raising children, is how much do we coddle them and allow them to go down the wrong path or make a wrong decision. And so it's a oftentimes perplexing state to be in from a very logical perspective, because the core principle of an individual who wishes to obtain higher consciousness or upgrade their operating system, a core directive is to upgrade the operating software. And we can see it a bit with millennials and those younger today, that when a new computer or new update comes out, we rush to it. For we've been programmed to recognize that these new upgrades are better for us. However, for those in which the mere act of upgrading is inadmissible to their current worldview, the more we upgrade, the more we tend to separate ourselves from those who wish not to upgrade. For example, entering into Silicon Valley, there's a specific lexicon and way of life that is hyper technologically enabled. However, oftentimes I've seen their approach to solving issues are attempting to solve issues of people who are not technologically savvy or even appreciative of technology. How then all that perceived need does is force the adoption of technological advancement. For it has finally been presented in a way that those who resist the change or those who resist the technology have no choice but to accept it and embrace it. And that's an issue that transcends the individual. It's an issue that goes beyond specific companies or industries, but it's also embedded in our human experience. From a genetic and DNA perspective, due to our incredible society, technology, and infrastructure, longevity of the genes, and Richard Dawkins' selfish gene, as he mentions, there's a need for genetic reproduction to pass on the gene expression. we have come to a time in which it's no longer about someone or finding a mate that is suitable from a physical perspective, including identifying the physical characteristics. For those are more indicative of finding a suitable partner in which the surroundings are and survival of shelter and food is the prime directive. But we've surpassed that, and we've even surpassed the desire or impetus to find a partner that's suitable in the information age. One who is traditionally recognized by society as successful due to his or her accolades and intellectual capabilities and current job status. Because we have entered into this shift, some people call it the 5D world or the Aquarius age or whatever you want to call it, the interconnectedness of one another has been so established and information so readily extracted and available. Our value as humans to continue is not one to create more information, for we are already uploading on YouTube, myself including, days worth of content every minute that has incredible mineable data, and our algorithms are able to extract incredible insights. And the entrepreneurs and large tech companies are finding more and more ways to measure, track, and record every aspect of life from everyone and everything, regardless of how much we may be resistant to it. Especially when you consider how you can cross-pollinate and cross-reference from multiple data sets that are out there and available for sale. Case in point, Google's tracking your searching, Facebook tracking your friends and your comments and what you read. And so being a explorer that I am, I'm an Eagle Scout and love it. So much gratitude for that organization, and it certainly made some changes in the current landscape of things, and my experience is powerful and incredible, and a backbone, a pillar of my experience. Being an explorer, it's about looking at what's next, and one heuristic we can look at is the way that companies are looking to shift based off of consumer demand. And consumer demand is looking for more conscious companies and more conscious employees because they are more likely to bring about the success in the modern age that the customers demand. And without going too far into the future, in which it's the machines control everything and humans are just left to explore, play, and dabble in consciousness and creativity and emotional expressions, the ability to know things becomes irrelevant, especially in lieu of the rapidly increasing searchability of all of reality, as well as the automation that is occurring in the technical space that empowers any individual to do anything, including a website, ordering, shipping, etc., coding even with apps. And so what's really happening is an evolution of the species from a societally regarded hierarchy from one which has control over all information to one which is highly conscious being. And the irony and beauty of that is the difference between a conscious being and an intellectual being is that a conscious being practices and applies the direct existential truths and knowledge rather than simply writes them down, measures them, records them, or can recall them. So it is a firm recollection of our evolution that has driven a lot of my own pursuit, as well as provides a really powerful framework to motivate the desire to upgrade the operating software. As well, finding a conscious mate therefore becomes the highest regarded priority when it comes towards perceiving procreation and succession of your genes, of your genetic expression. So more importantly than any other factor that is normally discussed and talked about in today's society as being attractive, that typically isolates individuals at the extreme ends of extreme physical beauty or extreme physical wealth. It actually is about the embodiment, practice, and integration of being a conscious individual with the highest operating software. Because you wouldn't want to take your brand new Mac and work with someone who's on a Windows 98. It's just silly. It's crazy. It's constant downgrading your computational power to communicate with them with archaic structures and programming that discounts the millions of hours of work and effort that went in to upgrading your own computer. And there are certain there are certain moments in life and observations and experiences that simply will not compute in the old version. And therefore, to feel, yes, feedback to, all right, these qualifiers, getting them. To feel fully heard, understood, and therefore appreciated, there exists an impetus and a desire for pursuing the most conscious individual as a mate. So this consciousness and this pursuit of consciousness is actually a biological imperative in the face of the modern and future society that we are living and will live in. Wow. Go figure. I mean, it makes a lot of sense. Because there's so many reasons why that makes sense. Wow. Just as our companies have isolated one aspect of our skill strength of who we are in order to exploit us for profit and pay our bills and pay our salaries, they negate the other aspects of us and ignore those aspects which prevent us from being fully heard and understood, and therefore oftentimes crave escaping the workplace in order to be seen and understood in the other aspects that we are. Such as if you are an accountant, constantly doing accounting work, but you're also a piano player or an artist, your artistic side is craving to be expressed, and more so expressed in an environment where people recognize and appreciate you for that ability. And so, the same thing holds true with a spouse or a mate. Whether or not there is connection on many layers, the prime directive for genetic propagation is for the attainment of an equally conscious being, for that will dictate the most optimal solution for longevity of the genetic expression, and therefore that selfish gene expression. Because the more conscious individual has an upgraded operating software, and in so doing can be better able to function in an ever-changing, rapidly changing world, as well as the journey to become a more conscious individual rids the person of the historical karma baggage or negative genetic expressions that have been carried and passed down for lifetimes. And so another way to understand conscious awakening is through the purification of the genetic code, not of the general standard 23 genomes that are sequenced or that are focused on in terms of the traits and characteristics you might have, but rather all the incredible additional information that is carried on and passed on in code that can get triggered or activated, similar to epigenetics. And when you clear at the cellular level, and when you complete at the spiritual level, or the etheric level, the space level, you are purifying your body. And an individual who has gone through that process and stays purified recognizes the value and importance of being purified and the desire to exist in a more purified environment. This being the case of observing consumer sentiment and demand going toward more conscious consumption, this creates a more conscious reality. And so I guess I'll leave you with that. And I want to thank you for staying with it and with me. I had no idea that this is what was going to be said. And so would most accurately be said as my first live channeling of conscious wisdom and truth. So that's cool. We call this it with Nityananda Sangha a click. And of course, the title of this is Clifton's Clicks. So I guess we can call this a click. There is a biological imperative from a genetic perspective to pursue conscious awakening and upgrading your operating software. Wow. That's cool. Okay, I don't even know this stuff. I mean, that's how cool tapping into this space is. Channeling and accessing this wisdom. So yeah, fun. I got it on camera. That's awesome. And yes, I can share it with you. So there's various levels of wisdom and various frequencies that this wisdom comes in. And sometimes it doesn't come very, I mean, as you can tell, it doesn't come very, sometimes it doesn't come very clear or concise. But at the end of it, you kind of look back on it and go, oh, that's what it means. So maybe there needs to be a Cliff Notes of Clifton's Clicks. That's funny. Man, my name is so like on point. Anyway, thanks for joining. I'll end it there. I'm like got a little teary in my eyes because it's beautiful. Yeah, thanks for watching. Join me next time. Any feedback, very welcome. Drop me a line, like, subscribe, click. If you want to know more, any topic of anything, let me know, and we'll see what comes. So with that, Nityananda, and be blissful, and I just thank everyone. Thank you, Jesus. Thank you, Mom. Thank you, Dad. Thank you, Swamiji. Thank you, everyone. And me. Awesome. Bye.